Hello and welcome to STEM Decoded. In this video, we are going to make a two-player Pong game in Scratch. And without any further ado, let's dive into it. So this is the Pong game that we are going to make. There are two pedals. One of the pedal is controlled by the left and right arrow keys. The other one is controlled by the A and D keys. And let's start by clicking the green flag here. And I remove this one. So we see that whenever one of the players would hit the edge, the other player would get a point and the ball would start again from the very center, and then it would go on just like that. Whenever someone would hit, the ball would start from the very center. And this is how the game basically goes, and whoever has the highest score wins at the end of the game when the timer runs out. So right now player 1 has the highest score, so player 1 wins. Now let's start with the code here. So first of all, we are going to go ahead and add a backdrop. So we can choose any backdrop of our choice. I'll just choose a neon tunnel. Then I'll just go ahead and add our paddles. So we want two paddles in this game. One on this side and the other one on the other side. And we can name the paddles. So this is my paddle 1 and this is my paddle 2. Great. Now let's code our paddle 1. Paddle 1, I want it to be controlled by left and right arrow keys. So I'll drag out the event block when space key is pressed. And I'll set the keys to right and left. And then I'll go into motion and drag out the change x by 10 block and change x by minus 10 block. So change x by 10 will help us move in the right direction, and change x by minus 10 will help us move in the left direction because x is the x-axis on the screen and helps us move left and right. Now let's go to the paddle 2, and again we'll drag the event block space key is pressed. However, this time we'll choose the keys as D and A. We'll go into motion, and again we will set the X to change by 10 and minus 10. And now we see that both our pedals are moving perfectly fine. Okay, now let's move ahead and add our ball. So we add a ball, and the ball needs to move randomly around the screen. And it needs to start moving when green flag is clicked. It needs to go to the center. It needs to turn a little bit of a degrees. So we want it to point in the direction of 45 degrees. And this is important because if it's very straight and it keeps moving, it will just bounce back and forth on the in a particular line, and it would not move around. And 45 degrees basically help the ball to move around on the screen randomly. Now we'll drag a control block forever, and because we want the ball to move continuously around the screen, and we make the ball move 10 steps. And now let's test the game, and we see that the ball is not bouncing on the edge and just going out of the screen, and that's something we don't want. So we'll just drag this block here, if on edge bounce, and now we see that the ball continuously bounces around on the screen. Okay, next step. Now what we want that when the ball touches the pedal, it should bounce again. So let's go into the control block here and let's check if the ball is touching the pedal or not. So we drag out a if block and we go to the sensing area and we drag out a touching block here. And then we say that if touching pedal 1, we want the ball to turn a little degree so it seems like it's bouncing. And we'll just make it turn 180 degrees, which will just turn it to the very... So we see that 0 is this, and then 180 is the complete opposite of those degrees. And I will not keep it completely exactly as 180 because I do want a little bit of an unpredictable motion and not a very predictable one. So just a little bit less than 180, which is 160. And let's duplicate this block here and we'll place it here. Okay. Now the next step is, now let's test the game. We see that our ball bounces quite pleasantly around the game, and we can even speed this up. You can speed it according to what you want it to be and how much speed you want your ball to have, and then it can just be sped up and will be fine. Now the next step is to add the edges here so that we can detect that if the edges are being touched, then we need to give the other player, the opponent player, a score. So for that, let's go here and go to paint here on the sprite section, and let's make a line. So we'll just draw a line here Then we can also go ahead and increase its breadth. And then we can go ahead and add another line here and make another sprite by paint. And then we can just go here, copy it, and then we can paste the line here, and then we can drag it to the top. I can just name this line 1, and I can name the other one line 2. And I can even change the color of the line so that it's more visible. Okay, now I'll go to line 2 and I'll just drag it a little bit down because I can see that it's not visible on the screen very much. And now I'll place it where I want to place it on the screen. And I can place this a little bit down if it's a little bit too up for me. I think that's perfect. Now let's go ahead to the code, and now we need to check if the ball is touching the line or not. So again, we're going to controls, we'll drag out the if block. We'll go into sensing here and we'll drag out the touching block, and we can see that if touching line 1, then what do we need to do? We need to increase the score of one of the players. So for that, we have to make variable score for each of the players. So we go into variables and make a variable P1 score, and we make another variable P2 score. And then we can go ahead and set these scores to 0 when the game starts. So P1 to 0 and P2 to 0. And then when line 1 touches, which is this line, right? So P2 gets the score, right? Because player 2 is this one and player 1 is this one. And we can see that, let's go to basketball. And I want P2 to get a score. So I'll just change P2 score by 1. And then I'll just duplicate this. And I'll change line to P1 score. And now, once again, what do we need to do? We need to start the game again, and we need the ball to come again in the center. We'll say go to 0, 0. And we will say that now again, point in the direction of 45 degrees. And we can also add a wait here, so that all this happens after a bit of a 0.5 seconds, so that the players get a little bit of time for the next move. Then we can duplicate this and place it here as well. And we see that it starts from the very beginning, from the very center, and P1 score, which is this player, its scores increases whenever the line touches. Okay. I pause this here, and now let's go ahead and add some sound effects. So I'll go into sounds, and you'll go into the sound library here, and you can go ahead and select any sound from this huge library here. I'll just go ahead with a boing sound whenever my players touches each other. And let's add the boing sound. Coin, coin. So whenever the ball is touching the pedal, I want this sound to be played. Yeah, I like this sound. Let's add it here. Okay, perfect. And now we have the pew sound in the library, and let's go to the code again. And I want to make a boing sound whenever my pedal touches the ball. So let's put it here. Boing. And now I want to make a pew sound when the line touches. Okay, now let's go ahead and add a timer. So we'll go to the events block. We'll say when green flag is clicked. We will make a variable timer here. And then we'll set the timer at the start of the game to the number you want your game to be. I'll set it to 20 seconds here. And then you'll drag a forever block from here, and you will wait for 1 second every time, and then we have to change the timer by -1. So the timer will decrease by -1 every 1 second. And we are not adding this code in here in this block because timer waits for 1 second and we don't want everything else to wait. And therefore we are adding it here so that nothing else waits and the timer runs separately and the game runs separately. When the timer becomes 0, so if timer is equal to, I'll drag the equal to operator here, and then I'll go to my variables and I'll just drag out timer and check that if it is equals to 0, then I want to end the game. And I also want to display the results. We'll display the results in a minute and learn how to do it. Before that, let's just sort our screen here. So there are a lot of things going on here. And I just want that so much is not displayed so that the players can focus on the game. So this is my P1 score. It will be here because this is P1. And then this is my P2 score, so it will be here. And now let's go ahead and add some game and screens. So I'll just go here. I'll go to stage here, backdrop. I'll just add a text here that says that game over. and player 1 wins. And I'll make the screens for all the players. So I'll just make this big. I'll just make this go in the center, make this big. I'll just change the font here to pixel because I just love it. I'll just make it white. So this is my first condition, my first backdrop where player 1 wins. Now let's duplicate this again. Let's add another text, game over, and player 2 wins. And let's just make this a little bit bigger and place it in the center. Perfect. Now let's make another of the backdrops, and this time we will write a game over, and it's a so perfect. And now we'll just make this bigger and we'll center it somewhere here. So this is my draw backdrop. I'll just name it draw. I'll name this one as P1 wins. I'll name this one as P2 wins. Perfect. Okay. And now let's go back to the code of the basketball here. And then we will add some conditions inside the this timer is equals to 0 condition. And we'll check before the stop all that if my P1 score is greater than P2 at the end of the game, and timer is equals to 0, if P1 is greater than P2, then I will display the backdrop to P1 wins. And now we'll add the condition for the rest of the two. So controls, if block, we'll add the if block here. We'll just drag the stop all for a minute. We'll add the if block here, go to operators, check the less than condition, and see if P1 is less than P2. Then we'll duplicate this block here and we'll say that P2 wins. And then again, we'll drag out another of the if blocks. Another of the if blocks here, operators equal to, and then we'll say that if P1 is equals to P2, then we will just switch backdrop to draw. And then we can stop everything. So we'll stop all when timer is equals to 0. And now we need to switch back to the original backdrop because now you see when we press the green flag, we still have initial backdrop here. So we'll go into looks and we'll say switch backdrop to the original one. Now let's check. We'll decrease the timer to 5 seconds for just checking purposes. And now let's test our game and we'll see that I'm letting player 1 have all the scores, and we see that player 1 wins now. And that is it for today's video. If you enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more such content. And thanks for watching.